Welcome to another rewatch, and this time we're focusing on the World Cup of Darts, and we have two fine representatives alongside us. Paul Nicholson of Australia, sort of, and Kim Huybrechts, definitely, of Belgium. Gents, before we get to the game itself, the World Cup, it's a strange one. Pairs format, and it does bring a different kind of pressure. And I think it's probably fair to say that both of you guys are pretty intense characters up on stage. That added pressure of representing your country, having a teammate you don't want to let down. It could even be your brother you don't want to let down, Kim. That piles even more pressure on you when you're up there, doesn't it?
Yeah. Luckily for me, I was always used to playing doubles with Ronnie because when we played our BDO tournaments or we represented our countries in the BDO circuit, we also played the doubles together. So I know a bit the feeling. So the pressure of letting Ronnie down was a bit less, but it is one of the biggest tournaments in the world. And to be honest, my favorite tournament. The setup is so amazing. The feeling is beautiful to represent your country in a tournament like this. So yeah, there is a lot of pressure.
What about you, Paul? Because you were up here, you know, it wasn't your brother, but I mean, Simon Whitlock, an absolute legend of Australian darts.
Yeah, I felt a lot of pressure, especially after missing Championship darts in 2012. I made the bold statement that I was going to win this with Simon at some day, but I misspoke there because I didn't want to win it with Simon. I wanted to win it for him. I wanted him to hoist that trophy and give it to him. So I actually put too much pressure on myself to do it for Simon and to do it for Australia, because it was, you know, time was ticking for me as to how long I was going to be representing the country, and I just thought I've got to get this done now, otherwise the time is going to be up.
Well, look, you mentioned that you'd made the final before. The following year, Kim made the final as well with Belgium. So you'd both had success in this tournament. We get to 2015. You've both blasted your way through to the quarterfinals, relatively straightforward wins in the first couple of rounds. And then you knew you were going up against each other. What were your feelings going up? Because that quarterfinal, Belgium versus Australia, that looks probably the tastiest of the quarterfinal draws that year. And you would have both known it at the time.
Yeah, I can't remember what the other quarterfinals were, but obviously when you play players like Paul and Simon, you know it's going to be a tough game. It's going to be a hard game. And I always say to Ronnie, every time we played against a difficult country, if we just can make it to the doubles, then we can win it, because we are so strong as a pair. So our main goal every year was make it to the doubles. Because, yeah, well, Ronnie's a very good player, but it's a bit harder for him to beat the quality players. So I was always under a bit more pressure to win my single, just to make it to the doubles.
What about you, Paul? I mean, going up against not one Huybrechts, that's tough enough. Going up against two of them, because he's not been your easiest opponent in the past, has Kim?
No, I think up to that point I might have beaten Kim once. So when I was pitched against him in the singles, I thought this is an uphill struggle for me, because I've not only got to contain my own fire that is burning inside me, but I've got to contain my want to beat him and try and rectify some of the bad record that I had against him. And again, it comes back to the amount of pressure I was putting on myself. And ultimately, through the course of that singles game, the pressure kept building and building and building. And when we played against Belgium, it was always going to be a fiery encounter, because we have a multitude of different personalities. You know, you've got the two fiery ones in me and Kim, which is always great to watch. And then you've got Simon, who's trying to temper me. And then you've got big brother Ronnie, who always does a fabulous job of just following what Kim does. But I'll be really honest with you. I look back at that tournament and I think that the game between Australia and Belgium was the best game of the tournament. Aside that, I don't think it was a great World Cup. I think that stole the headlines, maybe for the wrong reasons, but at the same time, it was the best game. And World Cup's supposed to be about rivalries and people pitching against each other. That had it. I don't think anybody else had anything close to it.
Well, look, let's get back to it. That's why we picked the game. And look, Paul Nicholson is no stranger to stealing headlines, sometimes for the wrong reason. So let's get on with it, because very early on, we'll start the video. You've got a great position here, Paul. 44 for the opening leg.
Yeah, I've got to say, I mean, it's not the first time I've bust a score, is it? If you look at the single 12, I mean, the single 12 was a terrible shot. I almost hit the treble. I wasn't going for the treble. But I'm just one of those players who never seems to do anything the easy way. And double 16 is supposed to be my favourite double. But I was desperately trying to keep under control, but it was just boiling over. And I don't even remember doing that first signal with the cut through. I remember the one in the pairs.
That was the first signal to me.
I'm just looking at Kim's face during that. I mean, did you know this was going to be like this, Kim? Did you know it's Nicholson? I know he's going to be up for it.
Well, we've had our well, I'll say needle games. I think the first one was the World Championship. So I know that Paul is like you said before, a fiery person. So am I. Obviously, after the games, we discussed that it wasn't personal at me, but at that moment, I thought he was making a silence thing towards me. So I was a bit offended in the start, yeah.
Okay, so we get through that. Nicholson gets the first leg, and into the second leg, and he's having a good go at you here. Let's have a look at it.
By the second, I literally averaged 40 points plus more than he's averaging in this game. Double 10 here for Nicholson. Well, you could probably hear that. Australia. Back in the UK, he bellowed so loudly in exultation.
I've sat next to you in commentary boxes, Paul, and I'm not sure I've heard you that loud very often as when you celebrated that one. I mean, this is Nicholson plus, isn't it?
I think it was at the time. I mean, there were reasons behind it, but like Kim says, it was not personal. I can completely understand his thought process of how it seemed that way at the time, and in the midst of a really fiery dart match, which Kim and I always shared. I can completely understand why opponents would think that, but I'd spend my time looking at nothing. When a dart player turns this way towards the camera, and when they turn towards the carpet, it's just pure anger for me. And I had a really bad time at that period in my career of trying to control myself. And we'll come back to it in a minute. I mean, the clock was ticking for me, and I thought now or never. Simple as that. And when you hit something like double 10 earlier in a match, which is the double that cost me a World Cup, it was almost like I was angry at double 10. I wasn't angry at Kim, that's for sure.
Kim, what's it like? I mean, there's a lot of machismo. There's a lot of testosterone flying around. And in a one-on-one fight, which is what darts is, you can't afford to be seen as meek, as much, or scared or anything. You can't be intimidated, can you? And that's a difficult thing. You can't just go and stop pushing people. We don't want that. But there's a way of standing up for yourself. And it's about throwing good darts and not retreating into your shell.
Yeah, indeed. Some players, like I am one of them players. I need sometimes that fire in me to get myself going. When that fire's not there, and when I'm quiet, then I'm not playing really well. So I try to find the aggression in myself, and then sometimes you start searching for points, things that an opponent do, not at you, but things that can trigger you into getting mad and play better. And well, with Paul, it wasn't hard to find a trigger, to be honest. So maybe at the time, I don't really remember. Did I think it was personal or not? But it was a trigger for me. Like it was something in my head, like, oh, he's going against me now. Okay, I'll throw something against you then.
Well, let's skip it on then. So Nicholson's gone 2-0 up. We're into the third leg in a short format with a break of throw here. Nicholson's looking at 58 for a 3-0 lead. This might be game over if this goes.
That's what I was thinking as well. When it's a first to 4 and you're 3-0 down, then you're not very positive. Can't remember what I said there, but I don't think it was a nice thing to myself.
Well, what are you both thinking at this point? Because you must be scared that the game is gone now, Kim. I know that I'm never beaten, I'll always keep fighting. But 3-0 down in a race to 4. And Paul, you must have thought all that fire, all that aggression you brought on stage, it's working. Carry on, surely.
Yeah, when something is working, you just keep going, don't you? You think this formula seems to be working. Keep the intensity, keep the aggression, keep going with what you're doing because you're 3-0 up, and all you have to do is a small proportion of that to get over the line. And that was what I was thinking at the time. Don't relent. Don't stop being aggressive. But ultimately, it was me fueling Kim's fire that was my downfall. And I never got the opportunity to do it again, and I never will, to play Kim in a World Cup. So if I had the opportunity again, I would do things very differently. That
Never
is for
say
sure.
never. Never say never.
Well, no, never say never, because there'll be plenty of people saying Kim Huybrechts never going to win this from here, but if you skip it on. Ooh. What's up?
Yeah, I remember Ronnie came back to the venue because I was 3-0 down, and he wants whenever Ronnie's around and I can watch him, I always play better. I don't know why. He gives me good signals. He knows what to say to me, so that's why he came back to the venue.
Paul, you've had your chance there, or you thought you were going to get a chance for a whitewash against a guy that you very, very rarely beat. When's the first moments when you start thinking, I might be in trouble here? Even though I'm leading, I've got a good lead here. When do you first start thinking, I might have a problem?
When I've missed match darts, I'm thinking to myself, am I going to get over the line here? You get to a stage where you have one of two things happening. You get here and you think, I know I'm going to win, just give me the double and get it done. Or you're in this mindset here where you're thinking, just give me a shot and I hope it goes in. And I was in a hopeful mindset. For whatever reason, because I'd done a lot of things technically right on the dartboard in that World Cup. But when I got to that point, I think I may have reached a tipping point of, mental stuff and fire in my belly where it's gone over the top and it was too much for me to handle. So I think at that point I thought, if I don't book my ideas up here, I'm not going to get another match start, and I don't think I did.
Well, let's skip on, because 3-0 becomes 3-1. And Paul misses 18s, misses double 9. The great Rod Studd saying it's closer to the treble than the double there.
I was hoping that I would get a shot at that 32 to take the game 4-2, and I would much rather have had a shot at double 16 than double 18, because the splits are a bit more even. So if you split 16s, you go to 8s. You split 8s, you go to 4s. But you can't, when you've got 36, go inside 18s and inside 9s and have that one dart in your hand. I mean, that's a criminal offence in darts, especially under that kind of pressure. But you're forced to go for the double 9, because imagine with that kind of nerves, I probably would have missed a 10 or a 6.
Tim, you've won 3 legs on the spin there. You've gone from just muttering something under your breath to giving it a big old celebration and then going pretty wild. You've levelled the game. I mean, in that situation, I know it's 3-all. I know Paul's got the darts. But genuinely, would you rather be in that position, having won 3 legs on the spin, knowing you need to break in the final leg? Because you feel like you're on the up and your opponent might be hungry. Yeah,
exactly. Because you've just won 3 legs in a row. You know your opponent is not going to think, the last leg is for me. You know he's going to doubt. You know you've been in that position yourself, and you know what people think when they're in trouble. So I knew Paul was thinking that he must be in trouble at the moment, because when you win 3 legs in a row, you feel great. When you lose 3 legs in a row, you feel really down. So I knew I had a good chance there.
Would you have traded places with Kim at that point, Paul?
Absolutely.
You had the advantage of throwing first in the last leg, but
I would have traded places with Kim. I would have been in his boat, absolutely, because you want the momentum at that point. You want the positive vibes. You think that you're a train that can't be stopped. And Kim's one of those players that when he gets that momentum, he's destructive. And he has that fire burning at that point. And he was very hard to stop. He shut me out pretty much in the last 3 legs. And I have to give him full credit for that.
All right, well, let's have a look at this last leg then. The decider.
You can't blame him for being so excited on that one. That was a great checkout when you think about it.
I think it was the adrenaline of 3-0 down and winning it still 4-3. And with the things that was going on during the match as well with Paul and me mentally, that was a big win mentally. So it wasn't so that I won the match that was so good, but I mean the mental fight is sometimes huge on stage. It's not, sometimes it's not about darts anymore. It's just a mental fight with your opponent, and I think that was why I celebrated so much.
I think that's the reason I walked straight off the stage as well. It was no, I mean, it was massively disrespectful of me not to shake Kim's hand at the end of that singles match, and I really do regret that. But at the time, I was thinking that if I was to, you know, go up to Kim and shake his hand, I thought that because of the things that had happened during the match, that maybe there might have been a confrontation, and we still had the pairs to go. And I thought the best thing for me to do was to get out of here and find a way to calm down to try and win in the pairs, because both Simon and I knew that if we went to pairs, we were up against the brothers. So I thought the most important thing was to get off the stage, calm down, and me not shaking his hand was out of order. But at the time, I thought it was the right thing to do.
Well, look, this is the thing, particularly in the World Cup. Normally, in say if it was the World Championship or whatever, you know, you're going to war with your opponent. That's the war. It's done and dusted. Match start. That's the end of it. Here, that's only a battle, because you know that there could be more to come. And in this case, of course, there's the pairs to come, and you can't afford to just sort of dwell on it. You're still in battle mode, aren't you?
Absolutely. I mean, at that time, I was brimming with anger at myself more than anybody else, because I had the perfect position. I had the lead. I had the match darts. I'm the one that let it slip, and I'm the one that's had to live with it ever since the last 5 years. And it still makes me nervous to this day thinking about it, because you think about, you know, missing double top and double 10 for a World Cup. You miss double top and double 10 to get into a World Cup final, the very first one. You miss double 18s to get into the semis again and have another chance. And you think, how many chances do you want? You know, ultimately, you have to look yourself in the mirror and say it's your fault. And that's exactly what it was for me.
Well, look, let's skip on, because the doubles, the deciding match, the Huybrechts brothers, Nicholson and Whitlock, well-established teams in this World Cup. And whew, your face, Nico.
Who do I think I am?
That's Warface.
Yeah. Simon and I used to put paint in our hair, a little bit of green and yellow. He used to call it the war paint. And I think it might have had some sort of adverse effect.
What's being said between you and Simon there? And what's Ronnie saying to you there, Kim? Because I can imagine trying to tame you two. I mean, look, we're getting the fist bumps, everything's, but it's all very, it's aggressive, isn't it? It's perfectly, you know, fine and legal. There's nothing wrong with it, but you can tell this really means a lot. And Nicholson's face in this is brutal.
Yeah, well, like I said, Ronnie knows the things to say to me, and if we have a game like this, the most people would try to calm your partner down, but Ronnie is not going to fire me up, but he's going to use that, I'll say, aggressiveness in a good way, and he's going to try to motivate me to build on that, because he knows that I need it. He won't let me get over the point where he gets like Gary Anderson and Gerwin Price, like pushing and things like that. But he uses that aggression and he tries to build it up in something good for us as a double. That's
a big part of team play, isn't it? I mean, you can, you know, this energy, it can be used positively, but it can get out of control and wreck your own game, as I'm sure both of you have experienced on stage.
Indeed. That's why sometimes two very good players don't win the tournament, because you have to have chemistry in your doubles games. Because if that's not there, then you can be number 1 and 2 in the world, but if you don't have a chemistry together in pairs, you're in trouble. And that's what me and Ronnie had perfectly. I think Simon and Paul had it as well. And you need that in the World Cup, because there's so much pressure on there. It's a short format as well, so you need to get from leg 1, 5-0-1. It's not 7-0-1 like normal double tournaments. So you need a good chemistry with your partner.
I think Kim's absolutely right, because I've played with Simon against Kim, who had a different partner in Kurt van der Rijk. And when we played against Kim and Kurt, obviously with all due respect, they weren't as strong there wasn't that aura around them like there was when the two brothers were in front of you. There's a real bollard there of, wow, these are going to be hard to beat. With Kurt, you just felt like he was maybe the weaker of the four, and we could try and expose that. But we didn't have any weakness in the Belgian wall in front of us in this game. It felt like you were just batting your head against it the whole time.
Well, so the first leg, it's won by the Belgians, and Paul gets a shot to level and takes it. Oh. Go on then, Paul. Talk us through that little celebration.
What, you mean the cutthroat thing?
Yeah.
Well, obviously in the previous game with the singles, it was my fault that I didn't get things finished. So it was not aimed at Ronnie or Kim, and that's exactly what I told the DRA.
How did they take that?
Just like all the other times, they didn't listen. They just said, "Where's your checkbook?" So I'm my people in the VIP area. I said, I'm gonna finish it this time, and it did look a bit sinister. I was getting a bit Undertaker-like in WWE, and at the time I was just trying and stay calm. I was on fire. You know, if you'd have measured my temperature at that point, it was probably above 41 degrees in my body. But Simon did a really good thing of trying to temper me in that game. You could see that I was boiling, but at no time was that celebration personal towards Kim or Ronnie. I have to emphasise that. I was looking towards other people and just signalling to them and myself that you've got to finish it this time. Otherwise, something was going to happen. And ultimately, I got the chance to finish that leg, but other opportunities didn't come.
Yeah, I mean, look, I thought it was pretty clear at the time when I was watching it, but obviously the DRA takes very different views from me. To Paul Nicholson's wallet's detriment. Let's move on. Leg 3. See that? Well, even Ronnie's giving it a bit. You don't see that very often.
Yeah, when he gets to the boiling point, and then he can be a mean person as well on the board.
What's it like at the back of the stage? You can see you all prowling around there. I mean, it's a crowded old place to be. It's got to be so different from playing one-on-one darts.
Yeah, true. You can't show your darts for your partner, so it's difficult to understand whether they can handle the pressure or not.
Come on, Kim.
Yeah, this was a little bit of an arrogant moment. When Paul did that signal with his hands, that was war for me. That was, okay, this is personal now. I'm going at you. And I think with the 2 trebles, that's exactly what I showed him.
I mean, this is wonderful. Like, Paul, you just laughed it off there. This is nervous energy, isn't it? It got nowhere to go. I've either got to laugh or scream or something.
Well, it was a moment. I knew that in certain parts of my career that I was in a moment, and this was one of them. I thought there's going to be a lot of people watching this. There's a lot of people in the crowd loving this game. The commentators are going to have lots of content. And I thought, if you want to be out of the right side of this moment, you've got to try and stay within sort of a playing mentality. You're not going to win this by being hateful. You're going to have to win this with your darts. And my next visit was pretty good, but just trying to stay in control of what I was doing was very, very difficult at this point.
2 apiece. Kim piles in a 105. And then, who's that celebration for there, Kim? Lucky. Like this, it looks like it could be for anybody, but it looks like it might be a special one for one of the other guys up on that stage.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just in that moment. I even now get nervous when I'm watching this game. My hands are sweating now. I am just nervous watching this game, so I can imagine how I felt at that moment. So you just do things that just feel so natural, and you turn around and you don't even know who's for or why you're shouting, but it's adrenaline, pure adrenaline.
Are you, Paul, okay, we're watching you do this. Are you enjoying this at the minute? I know you love the sport. You love representing your country. you're up there. You've been playing all right, but with the pressure, with this battle that's developed, are you actually enjoying yourself up there? Because it looks like you are so 150% committed to this, and yet you might be hating every single second of it at the same time.
At that moment, I was loving it because we was 3-2 up. If we would have been 3-2 down, I would have hated it, I think.
Yeah, Simon was pretty quiet during that pairs game. I think he was holding himself together impeccably. And he was the only person who didn't get fined in the end.
True. That's true.
Yeah, but I was enjoying the battle. I knew that a part of me was going to be speaking to Kim afterwards, no matter what the result. And it was never personal for me. I just wanted to make a spectacle. And I wanted to beat Belgium, of course, because they were a real title contender. And I thought, if we can win this game, we've got a great chance of winning this. But everything was coming to a point for me. And I got that sinking feeling pretty soon after that fifth leg, but it just started to turn, and it's starting to feel like this wasn't meant to be.
Well, let's skip on, because Kim's just taken out the ton plus finish. Belgium go 3-2 up, and they're 1 away from the semi-finals. Simon, again, it's almost as if all this has gone on. Simon's completely unaware of it, to be fair. But Ronnie's got the match start. Kim is on his knees like you've just scored a 30-yard screamer at Anfield there, Kim.
Yeah, I don't know what I was doing there. I've never been on my knees for a dart match, but well, I think that's my wildest celebration ever.
And that's a hotly contested title, let me tell you. Stony face from you, Paul, as you'd expect. But I mean, you've put so much into this. It's been so intense. It's been close right the way through. And that moment, you realise it's gone. How that's got to be such a hard feeling to deal with. Can you remember what that feels like now? Or is that something you block out?
I remember it like it was yesterday. It was a strange feeling for me at the time for a couple of reasons. Obviously, it was my fault that I let it slip, because I should have won the singles. And I thought to myself, because of the fact that I didn't shake Kim's hand at the end of the singles, I had to, no matter how I felt, I had to show respect to them. They played better than us in the pairs. I did that. Simon was off stage pretty quickly. I went to retrieve my kit, and it was the realisation that not only had I lost that fixture, but I knew that my Australian days were done. I got on the phone with Kyle Anderson about an hour after that, and I said, "This is your turn. I'm done." And it wasn't because of the initial reaction. It was because I'd already made my mind up before the tournament had even started. I thought, this is my last crack. But I'd told no one. I'd told absolutely no one. And the first person I told was Kim. Because when the game was over, Ronnie and Kim came out and they were still celebrating. And Simon wanted to leave straight away. And I said, "You go, leave me be. I have something I need to do." And I walked up to the brothers and I said, "Look, would you mind if I have a word with you, Kim?" I said, "There's nothing angry. I just need to tell you something." And I was absolutely bawling with tears at this point because I knew my future. I just said, "Congratulations." And I'm stuttering the words because I'm getting all teary and snotty. And I said, "That was my last game for Australia." And he said, "Don't be silly. You're going to play much more." And I said, "No, I've made my mind up. It's got nothing to do with now. I knew it before the tournament started. It's time for me to step aside and let Kyle have a go with Captain Whitlock." And I stuck to my word because it was Kyle's opportunity, and it was the right time to walk away. I think if you're going to walk away from a World Cup career, you might as well do it after a dramatic match, and that was definitely one of those.
Absolutely. Kim, I mean, the World Cup, you say it's your favourite tournament. Games like that, they don't come along too often, do they?
No, but these are the games you live for. If you win them, you feel like you're the best player in the world at that moment. If you lose them, you feel so down, and I can understand Paul's feeling at that moment. And obviously, like Paul said, you play with a partner, so you feel more badly for your partner than for yourself. You will always feel like you've let your partner down. even if you played better than him. So it's worse to lose doubles games than singles matches.
Well, look, to the fieriest competitors we've ever seen in the World Cup of Darts, one of the fieriest encounters we've seen in the history of the tournament. And for my money, I don't care what anybody says, that's the stuff that makes this sport worth watching. Thank you very much for our World Cup rewatch. Thank you very, very much for Paul Nicholson and Kim Huybrechts bearing their souls for us. But yeah, fingers crossed we have another World Cup to look forward to. Never say never, Paul. You might be... You might be, but we could see another Nicholson Huybrechts on a World Cup stage at some point.
He has to be Belgium and get above Dimitri then.
Gentlemen, thank you very much. We will speak again.
Cheers, Dan. Cheers, Paul.